Have you ever wondered how some characters, even decades after they were created, keep getting called back every year during the holiday season? Jack Skellington is one of those characters. A skull for a face, long, slender limbs, a black pinstripe suit, and an expression that always seems to blur the line between a smile and a frown. Merchandise, cosplay, t-shirts, stickers, plushies, and even seasonal game events. For many people today, he's simply that skeleton character you've seen somewhere, yet quite a few don't actually know which film he originally came from. Jack Skellington first appeared as the protagonist of the 1993 stop-motion animated film The Nightmare Before Christmas. It was a project born from Tim Burton's unique world-building and Henry Selick's mastery of stop-motion animation, blending Halloween and Christmas into a single experimental story. At the time, it was considered a rather unusual animation, but over the following 30 years, Jack Skellington has continued to be rediscovered by new generations and summoned again every Halloween and Christmas season. And this brings us to a question. How did a character from a single stop-motion film manage to endure for so long and become a symbol recognized across generations? Now, let's follow 10 fascinating facts about Jack Skellington and take a closer look at that journey. The first interesting fact is that Jack Skellington was born long before the 1993 film. He actually came to life inside Tim Burton's mind in the early 1980s. Around 1982, when Burton was working as an animator at Disney, he wrote a short poem infused with his dark, strange sensibilities. It was titled The Nightmare Before Christmas, the very story we know today. Within that poem existed Halloween Town, Christmas Town, and a character caught between the two worlds. This early figure would later evolve into Jack Skellington, but at the time, Disney considered the idea too dark and too unconventional for family audiences, and so the project was shelved. Throughout the 1980s, Jack remained not on the screen, but within Burton's notes and sketches. In other words, Jack Skellington didn't suddenly appear in 1993. He had been waiting for over a decade before finally stepping out into the world. The second fact is that although The Nightmare Before Christmas is commonly known as Tim Burton's film, the actual director was Henry Selick. In the early 1990s, when Disney was creating more experimental projects under the Touchstone label, Burton's old poem resurfaced and a film adaptation was approved. But Burton was already busy with other major projects, such as the 1989 Batman film, and had no time to direct. So Henry Selick, a stop-motion specialist, joined as director. Burton provided the original concept, visual style, and atmosphere, while Selick transformed those ideas into physical sets, puppets, and lighting. Selick once described the collaboration by saying, "Tim Burton was the father of this film, and I acted as the midwife." This is why the film is widely known as Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, despite being the combined work of both creators. The third fact is that Jack Skellington's design was shaped through negotiation between Burton's early drawings and the practical realities of stop-motion puppet making. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Burton sketched Jack repeatedly. These early drawings showed extremely thin, jagged lines, a sharper chin, and limbs stretched to impossible lengths. but a stop-motion puppet must physically survive in front of the camera. If it's too fragile, it breaks during animation. So Selleck and the puppet team worked to keep Burton's distinctive style while ensuring the puppet could maintain its form and move mechanically. The final result became the Jack we know. A round skull, impossibly thin yet structurally reliable limbs, and the iconic pinstripe suit. This design has remained virtually unchanged since the 1993 release. The fourth fact is that more than 400 facial pieces were created just for Jack Skellington. Stop-motion animation requires 24 frames per second. To change a facial expression, animators must swap a physical piece every time they take a photo. To express Jack's full emotional range, smiling, surprised, thoughtful, wide-open singing poses, quiet whispering mouth shapes, the team crafted hundreds of interchangeable parts. What appears to be a simple, serene expression on screen is actually the result of immense patience and hundreds of carefully sculpted components. The fifth fact is that Jack Skellington's voice was created by not one, but two people. Actor Chris Sarandon performed Jack's speaking voice, delivering a calm, slightly husky tone that captured Jack's loneliness and weary charm. But when the film transitions into song, the voice changes. That's when Danny Elfman steps in. Elfman, the longtime composer of Burton's films, wrote all the songs for The Nightmare Before Christmas. Because he understood Jack's emotional arc so intimately, he chose to perform Jack's singing voice himself. As a result, the 1993 film presents Jack Skellington as a character performed by one actor and sung by another, a rare structure that adds to Jack's rhythmic, musical personality. The sixth fact is that Jack's emotional journey reflects the social atmosphere of the early 1990s. When the film premiered in 1993, many adults in the U.S. were experiencing fatigue and disillusionment with consumer culture, work culture, and the pressures of constantly performing well. In Halloween Town, Jack creates the perfect Halloween year after year. Everyone praises him, but inside, he feels empty. Is this really the life I want? This sentiment resonated deeply with many adults at the time. So Jack was not simply a skeleton character, but a symbol of people lost in routine and searching for new meaning. The seventh fact is that Jack's attempt to replicate Christmas is not just comedy, but a metaphor for misunderstandings between cultures. When Jack first encounters Christmas, he sees snow, gifts, trees, Santa Claus, and warm carols. To him, everything seems magical, so he decides, let's do this our way. And that's where things go wrong. The residents of Halloween Town imitate the surface of Christmas but misunderstand its meaning. Their gifts contain monsters and spiders, and their decorations sparkle but cause chaos. For 1990s audiences, these scenes echoed real-world situations where different cultures imitate each other's traditions without fully understanding them. Jack's mistakes resembled the misunderstandings people make when observing cultures other than their own. The eighth fact is that the film wasn't a major box office hit during its original 1993 release. Critics praised its originality, but noted that it might not appeal to mainstream audiences. It performed respectably, but not at the level of Disney's blockbuster animations. But over time, everything changed. Through VHS, DVD, cable reruns, and seasonal broadcasts, the film slowly reached a wider audience. In the US, it eventually became a staple every Halloween and Christmas. Jack's popularity wasn't the result of one big moment, but of a steady build across decades. The ninth fact is that Jack Skellington was not initially embraced as an official Disney mascot. In 1993, Disney prioritized family-friendly imagery, and a skeleton in a black suit didn't quite fit. So the movie was released under the Touchstone label instead of the Disney banner. But starting in the 2000s, Jack's fan base grew. Seasonal events at Disneyland and Disney World began featuring Jack prominently, and merchandise surged. Eventually, Jack Skellington, once seen as an odd fit, became one of Disney's most iconic seasonal characters. The 10th fact is that Jack continues to be reinterpreted by new generations. People born long after 1993 may not have seen the movie in theaters, but they discovered Jack through streaming, music videos, game collaborations, and fashion brands. For some, he's a cute skeleton mascot. For others, he's a symbol of artistic melancholy. And to many, he's simply the face that represents both Halloween and Christmas. Much like orcs, liches, or mind flayers, characters whose meaning evolves across different media while their core identity remains, Jack Skellington preserves his original essence while being adopted differently by each new generation. Jack Skellington began in the notebook of a young animator in the early 1980s. A short poem written around 1982, full production starting in the early 1990s, and finally, a theatrical release in 1993. Across the 30 years that followed, this character has never faded. A bridge connecting two very different seasons, Halloween and Christmas, and the story of someone searching for new meaning within a life that felt endlessly repetitive. That is why Jack Skellington remains, even today, a figure who is a little strange, yet unexpectedly comforting to so many people. And next time, we'll take a gentle step further and explore yet another set of hidden stories surrounding this character.